Another killer, unaired, unrecorded episode of You Killed It just went down. As you always say, if people could hear the unreleased tape to this podcast, we would both be out of work, but we would also have way more listeners. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast talking about the challenge. A great episode tonight. I really enjoyed tonight's episode.
Yes, and I'll be honest with you, I firmly believe that this episode that we are about to record will be really, really good. But I also guarantee that if we did the podcast that we just recorded without me hitting record yet, and what I'm saying is, our discussion beforehand, recording this pod, let's say, would be a number one podcast.
Yeah, it would, actually.
The
lost tapes. You know what? I once said to you, not being recorded in one of the lost tapes, I once said to you that my career goal was to have a level of job security where I could actually speak my mind without fear of reprisal. Maybe we'll get to that point. That sounds like I say really whack things. I don't actually think that. I'm just saying I'm aware of the consequences of my opinions, but I stand by my opinions.
Yeah. Most of the things we're talking about is political things, connects, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. It's not actual slander, we'll say.
No, not at all. I stand by what I said to you previously off air. I know that for professional reasons, it would cost me. At least where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Someone who is not so cautious, or maybe he is being cautious, maybe that's an interesting question, is Wes. Wes returns to the house, now a member of Team Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a chant of blue. And then Johnny Bananas calls on Wes to make a speech. What did you think of this speech to the house?
I got to say something. This is the second season of Challenge USA, right? We're at episode 7. We've seen Wes in a lot of seasons of the challenge. And I got to say that this is not the Wes that I would like to be seeing on the challenge.
He's lost his edge a little. I think we can say it. As much as I love him, we're seeing a softer, gentler Wes, a truly softer Wes.
Do you know what it is? It's a not confident Wes. I see flashes of it here and there that'll come out in a confessional here and there, but I feel like overall, it's just not a confident Wes, and I don't really like that. That's not the Wes that I like to see. Normally, if he's giving off these vibes, it's because it's part of the game, right? And he's trying to trick people, but the speech, I don't know. I thought, so here's the thing. Corey and Fessy didn't buy it, but Alyssa was buying what he was saying, right? I thought that there was some truth to it. Sure, he tried to put a little sauce on it to probably make people feel sorry for him. But I do actually feel that he honestly just wants to play the game. But his viewpoint is that him playing the game right now, he's not allowed to play the game, so to speak, because he's just the main target, right? It's not it's him or Bananas, because it's not like anyone's looking at Josh. It's not like anyone's looking at Fessy. It's not like anyone's looking at Corey, right? So when they're talking about vets, it's just him and Bananas. And I think that's the part where he's I just want to play the game.
You know what? In fairness to Wes, we talk about this all the time. Traditionally, his game is he forms an alliance with rookies.
Mm-hmm.
So there is probably a part of him that's man, what the hell? I walk into this house and I'm targeted because I'm a vet. I'm the vet that typically works with rookies. I'm sure there's a part of Wes that would have been content to just basically be the team leader on the green team.
Mm-hmm.
And just be green versus the world. And obviously he'd be down with Bananas still, but aside from that, but then they came after him and he's sort of I don't want this. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to go where people support me. But this isn't necessarily how Wes plays the game.
Do you think we're so far removed from the old challenge that all of these new people that are on now are kind of like, oh no, you're just the vet, Wes, but they don't really know the inner workings of how Wes operates?
I think it's more that they, as we always say, in the early stages of a season, people are just looking for an excuse to vote people out.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the 6 challenge vets were presented, like we even noted earlier on that like Fessel was not, and Josh and Polly
Mm-hmm.
weren't singled out in the same way, even though they've all played more of the challenge than they had Big Brother, right? And
Yeah.
Michelle as well. Like Michelle's been on what 3 seasons of the challenge now, but like she's not getting singled out. But just like the way those 6 were presented, that it was just like an excuse, and also the fact that like they have a proven track record.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone knows, okay, these 6 are good at the challenge.
Yeah.
Wes and Bananas in particular, and to a lesser extent, John A and Tori. So like, but again, like I don't think it has anything to do with them not knowing his track record. I think it has more to do with them just being like, we need to vote for someone.
Mm-hmm.
These 6 are an obvious target.
Yeah. And with Wes and the huge target on his back, it was interesting to see him and Cassidy. I mean, he tries to plead his case to her. She doesn't really seem to be buying it. But I mean, at the same time, I will remind everyone, Wes wasn't ever really going for Cassidy,
No,
right? He did it because Tyler and Monty said that they were that Tyler, Monty, and the rest of their team, Desi, was like, hey, this is who we're voting for, when really they're voting for Amanda. So I still find that hilarious. This is the thing that's still going on.
what I think is, I think arguably the most important scene of the whole episode is Wes and Michaela are in the same room.
Mhm.
And, like Wes had his bags packed, right? So he's like still like in his gear from the actual competition.
Yep.
And his bags are like open, but like clearly yet to be unpacked on his bed. And Michaela's like, wait, so are you going to move down to uh, the dungeon, like Banana's room? And Wes is like, why would I do that? And she's like, oh, he's just like, he's your boy. And like, now you're on the same team. And he was like, why don't you like me? And like, I think Wes was being sincere. Like, what? Why are you so like brazy with me all the time? He's like, I haven't done anything to you.
Mhm.
And like, even as he's saying that, she can't like chill out. Like, she can't. She is like so mad at him, and he hasn't done anything to Michaela.
So Wes, this is my line of the episode though. Wes in the confessional being like, I haven't done anything against her. I mean, I did vote for her anonymously, but she doesn't know that. Right? Which is true. But I found that hilarious, right? Because it's
It
like,
is.
this is why, Wes, this is why. But I will say, from the Michaela side, I think she's just super paranoid, right? Because you could tell she put so much pressure on herself after being the first one out last season,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because obviously she came in highly touted. People thought she'd be really good at the challenge and she'd be a really good competitor. And then to go out first, it's just a bad look. So now you come back around. You probably watched, the rest of that season. You might have watched a little bit more of the challenge. And now you come back and you're stressing yourself out. And
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I'm definitely not trusting Wes. I'm definitely not trusting Bananas. And now that's heightened to where you're not even giving them a chance, but you're also overtly being rude, right?
That's the thing.
And I think like that's where it comes from.
Like, this is a game that more than anything, like the social game, the political game, however you want to call it, the social game,
Mm-hmm.
it's really important. And like, I, I think you can still be friendly and like playful with someone that you are actively working against. Like, I mean, we
Agreed.
just saw with Cassidy and Wes,
Agreed.
right? Like they have this conversation and then she like immediately like pulls a Jim and looks at the camera and like rolls her eyes. But like, and like Wes wasn't buying what she was saying. It was, but just like they had to say it to each other. And like
Mm-hmm.
Bananas is probably the king of this. Like you see him always like like
Yeah.
charming people that he's actively working against, and they know he's working. Like, it's not like they're saying he's two-faced. Like,
Mhm.
he'll like, we see it later during nominations. Like, there's a way where you can have integrity and work actively against someone in the house, but also be like funny and friendly and polite. And like, Michaela isn't even trying. Like, she's so rude to Wes.
Yeah.
And like, again, he hasn't really done anything. Like, he drew her name out of a hat. Like,
No,
where is
it's
this
so
coming
true.
from?
It's so true. And I mean, it's interesting to counter that relationship and lack of chemistry to the abundance of chemistry between Tyler and Alyssa. I mean, them talking about, their big brother showmances, and then
Hmm.
now they're budding showmans. Just beautiful people being beautiful. I mean, it was nice to watch. I
It
should have
was
said
nice.
it's beautiful to watch. I messed that up there, but
That's all right. I hope people will forgive you. Um, I think I would like to see more of like. I'm sorry that we didn't see more of the getting to know you phase,
okay.
because like, again, this is where like the MTV version of the show is better, where you've got like 90-minute episodes. Like you said last episode of You Killed It. I would have liked to see them like poolside, checking each other out,
Hmm.
flirting.
Yep.
I'm sure you've been in a situation that's akin to this. I know I have. I'm sure our listeners have, where you're at a cottage weekend or something. You're at a uh, like an all-inclusive resort, and you're hitting it off with someone, and like,
Hmm.
you find excuses to be around each other. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
like, nothing's happened, but like, you're starting to dance. Maybe you're not even dancing yet, but you can hear the music. Like, you're like, oh, are we? Is this? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, I feel like we've been robbed of that with
Yeah.
this.
You need a one dance and you got a Hennessy in my hand.
Yeah, exactly. You get it. You get me, Shelly. So I
There's
wish we.
someone in their car right now that's like just shaking their head at like
Yeah,
how terrible
and
that
his
was
name
for
is
me.
LT.
I'll
um,
never forget. I forget whose bit it was, or maybe it was a podcast, but they're like, every time I hear that song, I'm worried about the Hennessy in Drake's hands. Like, is he gonna spill that?
Hennessy's expensive.
He
Have
can't.
we have we talked about my love of Hennessy?
This is breaking news on this podcast.
Is it?
I had no idea
Oh
about
my
this.
God,
We've never
Shelly.
discussed this.
I have a circle of friends where they have a chant, which is Chud needs Hennessy. And they'll be like, Chud needs Hennessy. And because
What is going on? I'm stunned by this development.
I love Henny so much.
Anything is possible, man.
Anything is possible.
I also have said relationship with a mutual friend of ours from Northern Secondary School, who actually I don't know if I should say on this pod. Yeah, I
Do
probably
it.
shouldn't say just because. No, I probably shouldn't say just because
Aw.
like it's someone that people could know. I'll say that. I won't say
Okay.
like will know or should know, but could know. And I don't want to put
Okay.
their business out there like that.
All right. All
But
right.
let's say the hen rock does get ordered from time to time in abundance.
That's
Side
amazing.
note, did you see the story of Drake in Vancouver? So he's in Vancouver, and from his hotel,
Hmm.
he like puts up an Instagram story at the Cactus Club that's across the street from his hotel. And he's
Hmm.
basically saying I want a drink, I want this drink from there, whatever. And
Hmm.
then they send up
Yeah.
like a waitress from the Cactus Club to his hotel room to bring him a drink.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Why? I mean, good on him.
I mean, listen, I guess he can abuse the power if he got it, right? But yeah,
I
it's just
mean,
interesting. Had her bring him a drink. And he called her a baddie on his Instagram.
that's the only kind of person that they hire at Cactus Clubs. That's definitely part of their brand.
Cactus Club is Canadian, right? There's no Cactus Clubs in the States.
Yeah, that's right. It's a Vancouver based chain, right? Like they only came to Toronto in the past like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Cactus
That's
Club,
fair.
check it out next time you're in Canada. Vancouver, Toronto. I think there's one in Calgary.
Is that how you pronounce a drink? A Bellini?
A Bellini, yeah.
Yeah, Drake demands Cactus Club Bellini ahead of Vancouver concert.
I mean, their Bellinis are notoriously good, but
He was not able to dine in at the Cole Harbor location, but obviously the fans were showing a lot of love and couldn't really figure out a table for myself over there. What Drake? What is happening, right? It's just so ridiculous. My demands have been made. He said, so in his, I know I'm taking this podcast way off the rails here.
No, it's great.
So
this is
he's
our
like,
CanCon for the episode.
That's true. This is for the last episode of not knowing enough about Canada. This is the power that Drake has. In a video seemingly filmed from the Fairmount Pacific Rim, he addressed Cactus Club saying, "You've got 30 minutes to send 4 of them Pichelinis over to my hotel room right now." He demanded the popular drink come frozen and definitely not in a plastic container. This is my last show in Vancouver. I need to juice up. He seemed to be satisfied when the frozen drinks were delivered, frozen and golden, right on time. I'm pretty sure with this new program I have here, I can like show you this picture here. Let me see here. Screen share. Window. Boom. Boom. Look at that.
I missed all this. I'm not sure I follow Drake anymore on Instagram.
There is the drink. There is.
There's the server.
And the caption says, Cactus Club Cafe, frozen and golden, right on time. And this baddie puts the bell in Bellini. I have so many questions about this. So many questions that I don't know if we should spend that much time like on this podcast discussing. But I want to know the argument that was going on within the Cactus Club in terms of who was going to bring the drinks to Drake's room. Because that's got to be a debate, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a fight between the servers trying to figure out who's going to do it. How do you decide who's going to go do it? And there's the other part of the conversation of when said baddie goes to Drake's room to deliver the drinks, how long does she stay? That's another conversation for another day. But I'm just saying things for people to think about here on the You Killed It podcast, more than just, the challenge.
One thing that we have to talk about, though, is I love how Tyler and Alyssa definitely find a way to float the so are you single question without straight up being like, so are you single? You know what I mean?
They're putting out the vibes,
This is why I wish we'd seen more of how these conversations came to be,
That's another reason why we got to be so thankful for Johnny Bananas and Wes and Drake. There's certain levels of people that just know how to play the game, we'll say.
That's right. And this episode's daily challenge, speaking of games, is Wreck and Roll. So
I was going to say, did the baddie get wrecked and rolled? I'm taking this episode off the rails. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize to our listeners. It's past midnight, okay? I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness, Shelly.
Continue.
So Wreck and Roll. So 2 players from each team are in an American Gladiator style ball, and they have to knock over pillars with tires on them while their teammates gather up those tires and take them up a sandy hill to where they have a puzzle waiting. The letters on the tires are used to spell out 10 words. 25 words, doing the math, in this puzzle. I think this actually looks fun. I liked the look of this a lot. I've always wanted to be in one of those American Gladiator balls.
Yep. It
Yeah.
was a really cool challenge and like a massive, like it looked really cool from the overhead, because there's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. I thought it was really cool. I also think that the competitors do a good job of making that look easy when it's not.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to actually single out. It was Monty and Alyssa.
Yeah.
I thought their tactic was really good of like arms around each other's waists, like making because they're quite different in size, making sure that they're like in lockstep. I mean, the other teams didn't seem to struggle in particular, but like I like that the care and attention that they were putting into it. I think notably, and this becomes an issue later, is that the blue team has 7 players at this point, and the other 2 teams have 5 players, and that numbers difference makes a huge difference as they're
Mhm.
tracking down these tires and carrying them up, right? Like,
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too, just the different strategies in terms of do you I think it was a green team that had like the assembly line where
which
they
did
were
not
trying
work for
to,
them. It
no,
did not work at all. They
not
were
at all.
last every step of the way.
And the blue team was just, they had the most people, which also helps, right? So they were first ones up, but they also had everyone just bring up, you get a tire, you bring it all the way up. They also
Yeah.
had the most amount of people, which makes it easier for them to do that. Um, Blue figures out like they basically, the other part that was interesting, it seemed like the other teams had one person kind of taking the lead. So Michaela took the lead for the green team. Michelle took the lead for the red team, Team Red Flag. And blue team, though, they seem to be just working together.
Hmm.
And that's where the chemistry side of it comes in, where, there's a part of a team and everyone kind of knows their role. The people that are going to be up front, they're going to be the ones, deciding where everything goes. Maybe someone's more agile to be able to maneuver the pieces where they need to go.
Hmm.
But either way, blue team kind of dominated this and they ended up winning pretty easily. And it really does shift the house because now you have a voting block of Wes, Tori, Bananas, and Fessy. And they outnumber the rest of their team. And so this could have been a really big shift for the rest of the season if the game remained the same.
Which it does not. I want to point something out here. It seems like Sebastian did the heavy lifting, and he's like a competitor, we a cast member we've basically not spoken about. But I can't help it, and I felt bad because like I thought he had a good episode. He seems to be a good guy and a good player, but it's a rough draw. Um, but you were also we're talking about how blue winning is big because also it means someone from green and red is going home. Like those teams are just going to get weaker, and
Mhm.
it basically, unless something goes horribly sideways, it means it's going to be a survivor, a big brother person, right?
Yeah.
Like huge win for the challenge vets, right?
Yeah.
Like they just have to protect Josh and Corey pretty much, and like
And I guess Michelle somehow keeps managing to be protected here.
yeah, which we'll talk about after nominations.
Mhm.
Um, which, hey, we're there. Why don't we talk about it? Josh, who is on the red team, tells
Yep.
Fessel, who is on the blue team, that he wants to see Chanel and Michaela go in against each other.
Yep.
Which, to Josh's credit, longtime listeners will know I'm not a big Josh guy. Probably the right strategy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, as you're trying to dwindle down the numbers, I I don't really understand the process of making it a women's elimination all the time. I get that you're saving yourself and your friends who are mostly men in the house by it not even being a threat. I understand that side of it. Like I get it. But I'm just saying there are other dudes that you can target and manipulate it so that they go in. Right? Like you have the voting block of the same amount of numbers that you're using to put the women in. You could do the same thing to put like Tyler and Monty in against each other, no?
I agree, and that would be good for Josh's game, but because Tyler, he's friends with Tyler and Monty, it's less of his concern. But I also want to point something
Friends
out.
with everybody.
It's a Josh problem, but
Mhm.
something I have to point out because this comes up. where they get called out for always nominating women over men.
Mm-hmm.
This is also the like counter reaction, the natural counter reaction when you have an all female alliance that's targeting men.
True.
Right? Like the
Very
Secret
true.
Garden, did we it had 7 members. We
Mm-hmm.
at its zenith, at its the height of its power, and they're all
Zenith.
women.
Ooh, okay.
Thank you. No word on if William Shakespeare invented that word, but I could check. Um, but like I agree that they should start nominating men, but also this was probably going to happen when you have an
Mm-hmm.
all women alliance that's trying to pick off men. Like
Good point. Good
it's
point.
going to be the counter reaction, right?
Yeah. Tyler ends up getting used as a pawn, which I find is very interesting too, because like being the pawn is a very dangerous game to be played here. But you know, ends up working out for him. The flip side is we get Tiffany, who is super rattled. I thought she was going to give us a speech where she wants to go home, and that's what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But then she kind of like pulls it back together and says, nope, she's not going to quit. She's going to play it out because she doesn't like, you could tell Big Brother is one thing. She is probably the embodiment of what we've been talking about with this whole Challenge USA, Challenge CBS experiment, right? Where it's like Big Brother is one thing, but this is a whole other ball game. And to hear her talk about like, I'm not good at any of these games.
Mm-hmm.
I come out to these challenges and I'm not good at any of them, and it just makes me feel bad. Like that's where the disconnect lies between trying to CBS the challenge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the challenge was its good own entity. And I don't think it needed this, watered down version, for lack of a better term, just to come on after Big Brother on Thursday nights.
Yeah, and I don't like. I do find it lacks some of the spice,
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Hell
and I
yeah.
also I also find that it lacks the strategy. Like, there's a depth to the strategy that this season is lacking, and like part of that, like we see in the nominations, where you know Tory, West, Bananas, and Fessel are all basically voting in unison,
Yep.
right? And like even at one point, like I think Johnny was sort of flagrant
Oh
where
yeah.
he's like, "Oh, that's crazy, Tori. Like it's like you read my mind. I was also going to vote for Tyler. It's like we talked about this in advance or something. Like easy there, Johnny. Like
Yeah.
like you can like it's obvious what's happening. You don't have to like rub it in Desi's face."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, but this leads to a super interesting conversation,
Okay.
to me at least. Michaela immediately blames Josh for her nomination. Michaela and Tyler get nominated. Michaela immediately blames Josh, and she goes, "Why would men want to target a strong girl?" Says Michaela, who's been targeting challenge players all along, regardless of gender, and Michaela, who's again super rude to Wes and Bananas and the challenge vets. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Michaela, why would they keep you in? Like
Right. Yeah.
what's their motivation? Like, sure, fair enough. She makes a good point. Like, why aren't they nominating men? It would help their cause. But also, Wes basically was like, "Why are you always rude to me?" And you were like, "Fuck you." Like, how did you
Pretty
think this was going
much.
to work out for you? Like, she didn't curse at him, but
Yeah.
like, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think that you could just like continue to be rude to them and they're going to be like, "This is fine"?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And also, clearly, they're targeting someone with the strong enough personality to be able to rally the other side of the house.
yeah.
And she is a good competitor. So, like, there's two, there's all the sides point to showing you why she would be a good person for them to pick. I thought it was pretty funny that she was just like going right back at Josh. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Josh, I don't get how Josh survives this long, but he's just not a threat, and he's been pulling strings behind the scenes. He
Mhm.
has been. He has been, right?
Well, and Josh always does too much, as does so like Desi immediately tells Chanel
Mhm.
they're clear, like the challenge vets are clearly protecting Corey and Josh and Michelle,
Michelle. Mhm.
which I found interesting because like that wasn't my perception, but like she's right because Michelle appears and like suddenly is like, hey, like what's going on, guys? And also says straight up to the camera in confessional, like I'm playing all sides of the house. And I have to give her credit.
Yeah,
Michelle is doing a better job than she has in previous seasons. I still think she's guilty of doing too much, but she's doing a much better, more subtle job.
clearly, right? I mean, she's staying out of trouble. You have to remember the start of the season, she was right in the middle of it, and then now she's kind of Homer Simpson her way back into the bush, right? Where like she's
Mm-hmm.
not even a talking point really. But I would say that she is doing such a good job that people aren't even throwing away votes on her.
No.
Right? Like, and I think that's a real telltale sign that you're doing a good job of playing all sides of the house because you're not even getting votes, right?
Yeah.
To get your name put in the hopper. And I think like that's really a testament to how good of a job Michelle's doing. And I mean, I will say, I did say a while ago, this could be Michelle's season.
I'm not convinced, but she's undoubtedly playing better.
Mhm.
Um, so then we get to the club scene, the bar scene. It's not really a club. And Wes and Bananas,
I
obviously
don't
in their
know.
cups.
At what point does something cross over into a club versus the bar?
I feel like to me it's a dedicated dance floor and ideally a DJ.
I feel like I saw a dance floor. I don't know if I can vouch for a DJ.
Yeah.
Definitely could have been the place where they had the aux cord going, right?
Yeah. Yes. Could be one of those places, which to me is just a bar
It's fair.
with a dance floor.
Fair point.
So Wes and Bananas in particular, pretty clearly drunk,
Drunk Uncles, the
drunk
name of
uncles,
this pod.
drunkles, and they agree that they want to play matchmaker. They need to spice it up. So they're trying to
Mhm.
match up Tyler and Alyssa because clearly the sparks are flying. It's obvious to everyone. So they call over Alyssa and they tell her that unless she kisses Tyler, they're going to make sure it's a men's elimination. And like what I like about Alyssa is like she sees right through this, but she's also like, this is my chance to finally
Yeah.
kiss Tyler. And then
Hell
they
yeah.
call Tyler over and they're like, unless you kiss Alyssa, we're gonna make it a men's elimination. And he's like, well, I don't want to kiss her unless like she wants to be kissed. Which like, hey, shout out to Tyler. Consent is important. But but then
I
they're
was
like,
just going
no,
to make an inappropriate joke, and I'm
God
glad I
damn
stopped
it, Sheldon.
myself. I know.
And they're like, no, no, no. Alyssa definitely wants to be kissed. She even said she'd make the first move, which is true. She did.
Mhm.
And so they have like an awkward conversation for like 30 seconds and then they kiss. And then the floodgates open, Sheldon. And again, I think we've all been there where there's like a sexual tension. And then, like, once you finally kiss, there's no stopping.
Right. It's like, why were we wasting all this time before?
Right? Man, it's so that's such a great phase. Like I'm genuinely happy for these two because it's like just such a fun like place to be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah, definitely agree. It was pretty funny to see, and of course, it continued back at the house. That was hilarious. Um, I will say though, it was funny too how like Alyssa says, "I don't trust the people in this house. I don't trust the cameras in this house," and then right as they show that, they show them like turning off the lights, and then like the
Hmm.
camera fully adjusting into night mode, which I thought was so perfect. It was so good. Well done. Shout out to editing.
Yeah, it was great. I liked at one point she left the room. Monty came in, and Monty just goes, "Tyler, Tyler, Tyler."
What more needed to be said?
Hey, hey, good on him. So it's time to vote. Uh, we don't really have any insight as to how people are voting. You know, Tyler had made some noise that he was trying to get people to make it a women's vote
Mhm.
to like get him off the hook.
Yep.
But that's about it. We get to elimination, and I just want to say everyone's like fall weather, like early winter fits. It's making me so excited to see the autumn. You know this. I'm a cold weather guy. I'm not happy until I can see my breath. And I am so jealous of them and their toques and their vests and their hoodies.
Uh yeah, I like hoodie season. I can't be mad at hoodie season.
I'm just out here
Um
like a sweat hog dying every day through summer. So like give me some cool weather.
no, I'll take summer over winter at any day of the week. Everyone's happier in the summer. Winter, it's like dark earlier and stuff, and people are depressed. Everyone's sick because you're inside, and all these people. I'm gonna see. I stopped myself again because I'm gonna.
See,
Yeah.
here's the thing, Shelly. Your mistake is you're being social. You have to stop being social, and then you don't get sick. That's the key to my success.
Well,
Is
you know what
be
ends up happening, right? You're at work, you're inside, it's a terrible like HVAC system, and now you're stuck with all these people who've gotten sick from their kids, and then they come to work, and then they get you sick, and then the cycle of sickness continues.
I get you. I get you. But still, like, I love winter food. I love
What's
winter,
winter food? Like
like
soup?
soup, stews, heavy
Stews.
pastas. What? Why are you doing this to me? Roast
Stews. Who likes stews? Like what? I remember I
the
had this
food of my
running joke.
people.
I had this running that was good. That one got me. No, but I remember I had this running joke with one of my coworkers before because he used to love going to I think was it called like Ravi Soups, I think it was called.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'd be like, yo, man, that's not lunch. Like it's like basically drinking water for lunch, bro. You're gonna need
yeah.
another meal in like 2 hours.
Not if it's a stew and you got some substance to it.
That's
Man,
what
I
he would
love
always
stew.
say.
Chili? Are you saying you don't like
Not
chili?
mad at chili. Can't be mad at chili.
Come on.
Can't be mad at chili. I'm not mad at stew either. It's just funny because like I've never heard someone be like, I'm excited for
I
food, like stew.
pies? A nice warm pie? Let's go.
You can have that. You can have pie in the summertime.
Sheldon, it's too hot for hot food in the summertime. I have to take 2 showers in the summer every day in the summer just to like regulate my body temperature. I'm not
Just
built
staying
for
fresh, man.
no, it's I mean it is to stay fresh, but also just like so I stop sweating. I need to use cold water to regulate my own body temperature.
I'm fat, so I'd sweat like whatever all times a year. So I mean, there's just whatever. It's just gonna happen anyways.
So that brings us to top heavy, which which is the elimination. They, I should say, we see the voting results. Tiffany gets 2 votes, Monty gets 1 vote, Alyssa gets 1 vote, Josh gets 1 vote, Corey gets 1 vote, Chanel gets 4 votes. Notably, Michelle gets no votes. She's very proud of herself. Although she had half as many votes as Chanel, Tiffany is the one going in, not exactly going to plan for Josh.
No,
because he likes Tiffany. She's a Big Brother person. She's like part of his secondary alliance. And
before you get to this part, I thought it was going to be really funny because the way that the confessional set up, it was they announced it's a women's elimination. And Alyssa's like so happy. She's like, oh, I'm so glad Tyler's not going home. And I was like, please, please, please let them show that it's her ball that got picked. It was just so funny because she's so happy that like, oh, yay, it's a women's elimination. At least that means Tyler gets to stay. And it's like, but you could still end up going into the elimination. Like, you do realize that, right? But unfortunately, just for my like, loving the twists and turns and potential edits, it didn't go that way. It ends up being Tiffany. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. So Tiffany goes in. She lectures everyone that they should be putting the men in, that they're being stupid. And Josh, being Josh, immediately tells her that it hurt his feelings that she called him out. And then she's like, I didn't call you out specifically. He's like, well, you called everyone out and I'm up here. And she's like, it's not always about you, Josh. Like, stop being so sensitive. Like, we were good until 30 seconds ago.
We haven't done this in a while, but the doing too much award goes to Josh here.
Yeah.
Because there was absolutely no need for you to say anything. You know, she's just upset because she has to go in and she's going to use this opportunity to make a point. And wink, wink, she's making the correct point here. And so you could just let her have her moment, let her go. And instead, you're like, I'm really hurt that you would say, like, shut up.
That's the thing. Like, I think this speaks to Josh's immaturity. You're entitled to have your feelings. You're entitled to be hurt, but you don't have to tell everyone all the time, and you don't have to tell everyone immediately. Like, that's a
Well, hold
conversation
on.
you could
He's
have.
not really hurt. He's not hurt
No,
at all.
probably not.
No, there's nothing for him to be hurt about.
I
As she said, me and you are cool, Josh. So clearly I'm not talking about you.
I think he was hurt because I think he takes everything personally.
Well, he probably was hurt after she finished the conversation by saying, you have so much energy. Why don't you come down here and play then? I thought that was
I
great.
also think he missed an important point, which is these are all TV professionals.
Mhm.
She was making good TV, is what she was doing. Like, I'm sure that there is like sincerity in what she had to say, but
Mhm.
she was being good TV.
And so here's my flip side to that. I think Josh also thought he was making good TV. He was like, she's having her moment. If I say something like she's having her moment, that's going to be on the show. So if
Yeah,
I jump in, then I'm
yeah,
also going to be on the show. And I feel like that is constantly one of his goals. How can I make sure that I'm going to be in this episode? And
yeah,
when someone else is losing it, if you jump in and be like, oh no, I'm offended, chances are they're going to put that in. And that's what
yeah,
he did. That's what makes
yeah,
me even more annoyed by Josh.
yeah. You're right. So top heavy is the competition. They stand at the top of, I guess, a giant arm is the best way to describe it,
Mhm.
and they have to rock it back and forth using their full body weight. They have to grab kind of small balls and then tilt the other way and throw them into a basketball net. The first one to score 10 baskets stays in the game. Before we talk about how Tiffany and Michaela did, what do you think of the concept of this elimination?
I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool, but I think that they didn't do a good enough job of like we didn't really get to see how hard it was to actually move the apparatus. Like I thought it was cool in concept, but the distance of it, like I remember when they finally showed like a wide shot, it was like, oh, so you got to move this thing like pretty far and then like get
Yeah.
it going for you to reach. And then once it's going, now how close can you actually get to the net? Right. Like there are
Hmm.
a lot of quick cuts, and I don't know that I fully picked up on the full like gravity of the event, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And clearly neither did Tiffany.
Well, I think part of Tiffany's problem, because she really struggled, like, I forget who it was, maybe it was Chanel, said, like, oh, Tiffany's scared and it's
Oh,
affecting her.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that Tiffany was scared of like
Okay.
falling or anything. I think that Tiffany was scared that if the arm swung too far, that she wouldn't be able to get back to the center. So
Ah.
I feel like she didn't commit to going the
Mhm.
full like swing of the arm. And so
Interesting.
her shots weren't as good and she was getting a harder time getting the balls. I think that's
Interesting.
what was going on.
Makes sense. I could definitely see that. I could see that.
But Michaela had no fear and just like, I mean, there's no easy way to say it. She trounced her.
Yeah. 10-1, just a straight drubbing. Um, I thought that she was going to get a shutout. I didn't think that Tiffany was going to get one.
No.
But I also thought at a certain point you could tell Tiffany kind of gave up, or at least I thought
Oh
she
yeah.
gave up.
No, I know. I had it in my notes too. Tiffany has given up. There was one point
Mhm.
like you could see it in her face where she was just going through the motions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so Michaela wins
Mhm.
pretty quickly.
Yep.
Comes down. TJ congratulates her, and she's like, "I can do a lot without a partner." Still salty from a year ago.
Yep.
And in confessional, she says she's going to take Tori's spot on the blue team. She's going to expose Tori to risk. You know, blue team's obviously rocking and rolling.
Mhm.
And so then she says to TJ that she has decisions to make. And he goes, well, not really, which is my line of the episode because TJ's delivery was so good.
Yeah.
It
TJ's
was
the
so
best.
perfect.
Yeah.
He's my favorite reality host in a walk. And he announces that there's no more teams.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess you're competing as an individual, but there's definitely still teams, right?
Oh, there's
Like when it
definitely.
comes to voting, that's going to be super interesting to see how that part plays out. But the daily challenges, that's going to be really, really interesting to see how this game gets played now. Because if you think about it, right, with it being individual games, the strong players win. They already have their alliances,
Mm-hmm,
right? So, like, again, it's still kind of teams, right? But
mm-hmm,
now it's going to be interesting because I feel like now's when the moves are going to be made. Because let's say you're someone like Fessy or even someone like Johnny Bananas and you win. Do you shoot your shot now when you know you could get the numbers on your side to like take the other person out and save someone who might be a weaker player because they're a number for you?
mm-hmm,
Right? Like things can get really interesting now. So I want to see what goes down next week.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, it's from a production standpoint, it's a brilliant move
Mm-hmm.
because the blue team was about to start running the house.
Yeah.
They have numbers, they're clicking, they get along,
Mm-hmm.
they're well rounded, they've got someone who can do everything. They were going to start running this house,
Yeah.
even more than they already were.
Yeah.
And that would be a wrap. But now that there's no teams, they're not in such a like the challenge fats are not as strong as they were 30 minutes earlier.
Oh yeah. This is gonna break them up.
Yeah, I think
Oh
so.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I have to ask you, Shelly, who killed it for you this week?
You know what? Anytime someone dominates an elimination like that, it kind of makes it too easy for me to just say
Wow.
Michaela. I just think that the fact that when you dominate to that level, it's tough for me to say that you didn't kill it. I mean, especially in a scenario where your back was against the wall because your team isn't doing well and you were clearly the target. You made yourself a bigger target by going at Josh for no reason. Um, Going at Wes for no reason. But but when it matters most in crunch time, you come through with the dub. And I think for that reason, Michaela, you killed it.
See, I mean, I think Michaela is a borderline LVP candidate because I think she's really playing the game badly.
Fair?
Really reactionary, really illogical, unnecessarily bringing the heat down on herself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it could have just as easily been Chanel and Tiffany against each other. It could have just as easily been Tyler and Monty versus each other.
Yeah.
But like she's so brazy with especially Wes, but with all the challenge vets that she's just like drawing attention to herself
Mm-hmm.
for no reason. Um, so I think for me, the MVP has to be Michelle,
Wow. Okay.
which is, as longtime listeners know, I'm not a Michelle guy, not a Michelle fan, but
No,
credit where
that's
it's
me on
due.
this podcast.
Yeah, you're the Michelle guy.
Yeah.
You nod. You're just like, yes, you're very proud of yourself. She is playing the best season I've seen her
Mm-hmm.
play. And this is her fourth season. She's playing
Something
really
like that.
well. I mean, I do wonder if her game's about to blow up with people now playing for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll have to sort of see like what the twist is, the wrinkle is on Sunday.
Well, I
But
think I think those people will now get exposed, right? You
mhm,
can't be playing multiple sides of the house anymore. You have to be either Big Brother or Team Challenge. I don't know if you can be playing both sides anymore without exposing your hand.
yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how she does. But our MVP, our you killed it, weekly awards. They're based off of what's happened, not what we think is going to happen.
Correct.
And I think she's playing really well.
Agreed.
Where can the good people find you on social media?
Well, you can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. Please continue to like, follow, and subscribe to the pod wherever you happen to be listening to this. As we are back, we are on schedule. Everyone will be hearing this pod very shortly after we record it. And, everything's cool. No need to worry. We'll always get caught up. Everything will always be fine. And we appreciate you. Thanks for people for all the comments. I see them. I read them. Shout out to the YouTube comments, people. Really appreciate y'all. And yeah, keep supporting the pod. Keep supporting the movement. That is You Killed It podcast, because you are the reason why we do this.
And you can find me on Goodreads, John Chidley Hill. No, seriously, you can find me on all social media as J Chidley Hill, whether it's X, Instagram, or Twitter, or what's the other one? Threads. You can find me there. But also, you know what? Why not find me on Goodreads? I love reading.
Just don't call me on Twitter. Don't do that.
Has anyone tried to do that?
No, I'm just saying don't. Like, what a dumbass thing. Like, who, like, why? Anyways, that could lead us down a whole other, diversion that have already taken us on so many wild swings. And once I had hit like stop record, I'll tell you some of the things that I was gonna say on the pod. I'm like, I can't say that.
Well, until next episode, this was You Killed It.
I can't even.
I want to hear what you had to say, so I'm trying to wrap this up.
You killed it.